In the 1970s, there have been numerous films with an African American lead, and those films were known as blaxploitation flicks. I've seen several of them. Some of them are pretty good, but there's this one film that came out in 1974 that I feel like just got a bad rap and it didn't do so hot. But it's about a chick who's about to get an army of the undead to help her beat this mob who killed her fiance. Prepare yourselves, because here's a revisited review of Sugar Hill. This is Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews. So, greetings, my fellow YouTubers, and welcome to Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews. I'm the Big D, and this time around, I bring to you a revisited review of the 1974 blaxploitation crime drama horror flick, or maybe it's crime action horror flick, Sugar Hill, released by American International, directed by Paul Maslansky, starring Marki Bey in the title role, about a woman whose name is actually Diana Hill, but is called Sugar by her fiance boyfriend, who gets brutally beaten down by a bunch of goons who work for a mob boss. And to get revenge, she uses voodoo to get revenge on those people. Yep. Now, of course, this wasn't the first time the studio here, American International, had previously had done combined horror and blaxploitation. They had recently done that before with Blackula in '72 and Scream Blackula Scream a year prior. The film was released on February 6, 1974. Now, the story centers on Diana Sugar Hill, a photographer in Houston, whose boyfriend, nightclub owner Langston, has been killed by mob boss Morgan and his men when he refused to sell his club, known as Club Haiti, to Morgan. Once Langston's been beaten to death by Morgan's goons, boy, Sugar breaks down. Well, we see a feeling of great sadness. Soon she gets visited by her former boyfriend, a police lieutenant known as Valentine. And so she wants to get revenge on Morgan and his men, especially once she has a meeting with him. But however, soon she seeks the help of a former voodoo queen named Mama Matresse to take revenge upon Morgan and his goons. So Mama Matresse summons the voodoo lord of the dead known as Baron Samedi, who enlists his army of zombies to destroy Langston and his men, who now really wants to come. They'll do anything. Once the zombies are up and going, then the fun begins. Now, first, Sugar goes after Tank Watson and at a warehouse, and let me tell you, it's really something. Next, next she takes on, I believe this one is O'Brien, with a bunch by feeding him throwing him in a pigsty, making him a meal for pigs. And please forgive me for bringing this little line up. That's when Sugar says probably one of the most popular lines in this film. I hope they're into white trash. Believe me, I'm not really trying to be rude for saying what an African American would say about a bad white guy. So I do say if that bothered you, then I apologize. I only said it because it's one of a pretty darn good line, but not that I'm saying I'm not trying to be Well, apparently, but however, she later gets into a little bit of a little fight with Celeste, Morgan's girlfriend, I think. I could be wrong though, but anyway, soon after that, she goes after George, another member of Morgan's goons. However, he wasn't one of the four, because only four of his of Morgan's goons were there to that brutally beat up Langston, and apparently, Lee George gets down by some real voodoo, and his heart's been sent to Morgan. Boy freaks him out. Then she goes for King using a little bit of a barber's razor to cut this. Yeah, or right, well, right around the sides, not the neck. Anyway, because we really don't see much blood and gore since this film got a PG rating by the MPAA, just like Blackula and Scream Blackula Scream. Then she goes for Baker, who wants the money for the club, but apparently Sugar and Baron Somni and the others catch him in the act, and they force him into a coffin with a bunch of snakes in there and give him the money back. Boy, it really turned out to be pretty darn tense and what have you. Now I'm going to go to the ending, so please stop this video at once right now. Go to the description box below and fast forward to the time below because I'm giving you the story as best as I can remember since I've seen this a few times. Alright, here's your 5 seconds. If you have seen this movie, please continue. Okay, you've been warned. Well, apparently, she has defeated more of, just about all of the men except for Fabulous, which Sugar makes special arrangement with a masseuse, and so when Fabulous comes for a massage, Sugar starts giving him one, but soon the brides of Baron Samedi come in to help, and thus they kill Fabulous, thus leaving Morgan all that was left. But however, Valentine's possibly on Sugar's tail, so Baron Samedi takes a voodoo doll and puts like a needle about the knee, right around the knee of the leg, causing Valentine to lose his balance and break his leg. But he doesn't feel any pain when Sugar comes to see him in the hospital. So now Sugar was ready to take on Morgan. So he arrives at the old house on Hill Road, and thus the little bit of a chase begins with he encounters the ghosts, not ghosts, but the undead versions of his goons and the rest of the undead, the zombies. They soon catch him, and he tries to flee but manages to fall into what looked like water dirty mixed up, but it was really quicksand, and thus he was no more. But however, they wanted to know what all that was left was Celeste. Well, Baron Samedi did want Sugar because she made a deal with him to sell her soul to him, but he figures that Celeste would do, and thus Baron Samedi gives Sugar his cane. Well, actually, not a cane, but it's kind of a walking stick. Well, and thus he takes Celeste with him to his. Well, you get what I'm saying, okay? And thus, Sugar turns to Mama Maitresse saying, "It's over. You can now rest." End of story. So, what did I think of Sugar Hill? Well, I'm going to say this film is a guilty pleasure of mine. This is a very, very, very underrated horror film. Sure, it won't have much blood due to the fact it's PG rated. Well, apparently, this film did go on to become a cult classic, considering the film bombed at the box office, failing to only make $30,500 on its $350,000 budget. But however, in the years to come, it became a cult classic. Well, its original runtime was 91 minutes, which is the version I saw. Later on, it was cut down to 83 minutes for television and was retitled The Zombies of Sugar Hill, which I've never seen. Now, I've been hearing, well, not hearing, but read somewhere that there was supposed to be an R rated cut of this, but unfortunately, that's never materialized. Oh well. However, this film has been telecast on various channels. I first encountered this on the Comet channel, where I also watched Blackula and its sequel afterwards. The film had finally got a video cassette release in 1996 and in 2011 on DVD, which I think those are now out of print, so you'd have to pay an arm and a leg or find a bootleg copy of it. The only way you can find these films if you want to stream them is for to find them on AMC Plus, which is where it's last been seen. It's also been on Prime Video. If it comes up, you can watch it there. It is on Tubi, but unfortunately, there's some slight hiccups with this. Some quick, well, a hiccup of going back a few seconds and continuing on. And it's some company had actually distributed it, and they erased the American International Pictures logo at the beginning of the film, which I don't know why the Samuel they would do that. But anyway, reviews are average. It sets at 67% on Rotten Tomatoes. While writing in the Zombie Movie Encyclopedia, academic Pierre Dendel called it a humorously dated blaxploitation feature whose zombies represent a throwback to the classic zombie conceptualization of the 30s and 40s. Yes, because as a matter of fact, according to the film, the zombies are the preserved bodies of slaves brought to the US from Guinea. But anyway, yeah. Now, Am Tyner DVD Talk rated this 4 out of 5 stars and wrote, "It's creepy, sexy, sleazy, and a borderline surreal amount of fun. The film is a perfect movie for a Halloween marathon and probably my favorite single blaxploitation flick, period. The unique blend of exploitation film and Southern Gothic horror in the film was described by Blade Disgusting in 2020 as an underseen outlier in zombie films, following in the wake of the original Night of the Living Dead from 1968. Now, actually, rapper MF Doom sampled several audio clips from the film under his alias King Ghidorah on the album Take Me to Your Leader. A poster for the film appeared on a primary character's bedroom wall during a pivotal scene in the remake of Salem's Lot in 2024 to establish the film's 1970s period setting. Yes, so that was pretty cool. But anyway, I've watched it many times. Sugar Hill is a very underrated film. Maybe not a great film by a long shot, but it's still pretty cool though. I like its pretty good score by Nick Zessis and Dino Fakaris. Pretty good. Now for the cast of the film, we have Marki Bey as Diana Sugar Hill. Apparently, this was the only best known role she's done. After this, she would also appear in episodes of shows like The Rookies, Charlie's Angels, and Starsky and Hutch and Trapper John M.D. She's only been in 5 other movies, though. But they're ones I'm not familiar with. But anyway, she does a great job. I love her with her sexy self with her long hair, but once she gets into the big afro as Sugar Hill, and then she does have the afro at times when she's taking pictures of models and what have you, which I'm cool with that. I think this is so. She's a real hot one. Playing Morgan is Robert Quarry, who most people would know him best. If you're a horror fanatic, you may remember him as Count Yorga, vampire of the 1970 film of the same name, which I haven't seen, but I've heard of it. I might look into it. And of course, he also appeared in The Return of Count Yorga. He recently did appear in a recent sequel that American International produced 2 years prior, and that was Dr. Phibes Rises Again with Vincent Price, which I need to review those soon. Those two films. Playing Baron Samedi is Don Pedro Colley, who I would mostly remember this man here as Sheriff Ed Little from The Dukes of Hazzard. He's also been on Daniel Boone as well as Beneath the Planet of the Apes, THX 1138, and many others. He does a pretty good job. Anne Rees plays Celeste, not bad. Richard Lawson, who had recently appeared in Scream Blackula Scream the previous year, plays Lieutenant Valentine. He's pretty good. Mama Matres is played by the late great Zara Cully, who the following year would go on to be the original Mother Jefferson on TV's The Jeffersons. We also have Charles P. Robinson. Of course, you would know him as Charlie Robinson, layer of Night Court fame, plays Fabulous. We have Larry D. Johnson as Langston, Rick Haggard as Tank Watson, Ed Geldart as O'Brien, Albert J. Baker as George, Raymond E. Simpson III as King, and Thomas C. Carroll as Baker. So, in the end, I think Sugar Hill is such an underrated film. Would I recommend it? Well, if you're into blaxploitation horror and you're curious about this, I'd recommend you give this a one-time watch. Okay? So anyway, I really think Marki Bey's really a great actress in this film. This is a great film. Well, she's done, that is. So anyway, that's going to do it. What did you think of Sugar Hill? Let me know in the comments section below. If you like this video, consider clicking the like button, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, and be a part of the Big D Nation. Continue to help support my channel, and you know the rest. And we'll have another video coming up soon. So if you like this, check out my reviews for some of these other blaxploitation flicks. Check out these two I've recently done with Pam Grier. In the upper left-hand corner is my review of Coffee, which has already become the most viewed video on my channel this week and possibly for this month too. We'll see. In the upper right-hand corner is my review of Foxy Brown, which was released the same year Sugar Hill was in 1974. Or if you would like a different kind of blaxploitation flick, but with action, check out my review of the original Shaft in the bottom left-hand corner. And the bottom right-hand corner is the button you can click to subscribe. If you like rankings and reviews on movies, TV, music, video games, etc., then I'm your guy. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm the Big D saying, see ya.